What is up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, narrator of The Gallant by Janie Wirtz, and author of forthcoming fantasy novel Requiem Dreams of the Sleepless. A long time no see. I've been very occupied with nursing school. Haven't done a monthly wrap-up / TBR video since probably December. Maybe before that. Maybe before last semester. It's probably been about a year. I actually do not know. But I wanted to do like a big long video reviewing like all the books I've read this year because I've been reading a lot. I just haven't had time to actually post. But I thought that was a little cumbersome of a video to start with. So I'm just going to go over some of the books I read last month in the month of May and, you know, rank them and talk about what I enjoyed about them. Maybe not rank them, but you know, rate each of them. And then I'm going to talk about what I plan to read in the month of June. Didn't read a ton of comics, so I'm just going to throw them in with the novels. So first, we're going to start with the wrap up. So this month I started off with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I actually finished this towards the beginning of this month, like May 5th or May 6th. And I gave it 4 stars, I believe. Really captivating story here. I love the premise. I love the character of Adeline LaRue, or Addie. Most people know what this book is about. It's about a girl who makes a wish to this dark entity that she will belong to no one but herself. And as a result of this wish, she is forgotten by everyone the second they look away from her. It's one of those be careful what you wish for sort of stories. The first half of this book was really excellent, angling towards a 5-star, but then it introduced a secondary character that took up a lot of the stage from Addie in the second half, and I did not find that character to be that compelling. And it definitely sapped some of my enjoyment from the book. So I ended up landing on a 4 stars, but I really, really loved the premise here, and I thought the execution was great up until the introduction of that other character that I just really didn't care for. Next up, I read a comic book. I read Death, which is a spin-off of Sandman. It was the comic book sort of deluxe edition of different short stories revolving around the character of Death. And Death of the Endless is one of the 7 Endless. You have Dream, Death, Delirium, Destiny, Destruction, all these different embodiments of human emotions, and not even just human emotions, but just like any entity's emotions. The story of Death illustrated the beauty of life and the beauty to be found in the lack of permanence that we as human beings have. It's a really beautiful story. I ended up giving it, what did I give this? I actually don't know. Let me look. I gave it a 4 stars. Very poignant and emotional. Really enjoyed it. Not my favorite from the Sandman universe, but way better than my least favorite from that universe. If you've been following my journey through the Sandman universe, I've had some turbulent emotions with that. The next up, I'm going to talk about a book I finished also at the very beginning of May, and that is Paternus, Rise of the Gods. So Paternus, Rise of the Gods, if you love Dresden Files, if you grew up on Percy Jackson, if you like the idea of a sort of fantasy war just beyond the human perception, you'll love Paternus. The writing here feels like a mix of Stephen Erickson and Stephen King. It has this mythic styling to it and this vast cast of POVs, while also feeling very entrenched in like a sort of modern day Americana, but also it's just really good. And this book follows what are called firstborn, and you have secondborn, thirdborn. Basically, there's this entity called Father. His seed has given rise to all the characters that we think of as gods. You know, Zeus, what have you. They're all descendants of this creature, Father. You know, Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, any sort of mythic folklore type character that you can think of, it came from Father. And you follow this character, Fee, as she finds this old man in a nursing home that doesn't remember who he is, and he has some ties to this Father character. It is a really great start to this trilogy. It is a slow start. The rising action doesn't start till about halfway through the novel, but it is so excellent. The writing is so sharp. The characters are so great. The characterization is amazing. So it never feels like a slow burn to me, or it does feel like a slow burn, but it never feels unsatisfying. Next up is a novella by Rob J. Hayes, and that is Blood Brothers Beyond. So this is in his Mortal Techniques sort of world. It's a bunch of standalones that are in this world. You have Never Die, Pawn's Gambit, and Spirits of Vengeance. I liked Never Die. I thought Pawn's Gambit was better, and I thought Spirits of Vengeance was excellent. So where did Blood Brothers Beyond fall? 5 stars. Excellent. I think it's as good, if not better, than Spirits of Vengeance. Quality per page count, I think Blood Brothers Beyond is the better work than Spirits of Vengeance, but I think both of them are 2 of Rob J. Hayes' best works ever, and I've read maybe 12 or 13 works by him. Blood Brothers Beyond is on par with The Gallant. Maybe not on par with The Gallant, but it's coming up on The Gallant in terms of like one of the best novellas that I've ever read. I really, really, really enjoyed it. Great fantasy novella. It's not going to like, unlike The Gallant, it's not going to like change the way you view life a little bit, which is kind of my reading experience with The Gallant. But this is just a very poignant and powerful story about family, love, and loss set in a fantasy world as these 2 brothers try to bury their brother on this mountain so that his soul can get into heaven. And over the course of the story, as you see them try to lay their brother to rest, you see these 2 brothers that have drifted apart for so long are brought together by the loss of the 3rd brother. And it is a beautiful story. I absolutely love it. Even if you have no intention of reading Mortal Techniques, I do recommend you check out Blood Brothers Beyond. All right, so something I'm a little less positive on, Katabasis by Rebecca Kwong. I've had a short review of this. I may give it a dedicated review. I may not. The same could go for Addie LaRue. There are things about this that I really wanted to love. I do love the main characters and their interaction with each other, this sort of fractious friendship that's turning into this awkward budding romance was the most captivating part of this story. But at times, Rebecca Kwong just indulges in flexing her logical knowledge and her literary knowledge and her historical knowledge in a way that can feel very pretentious. Even though this book is making an attempt to call out pretentious academics, it is still indulging in the exact behavior it's calling out and satirizing. So yeah, I gave this a 3, and it's a 3 angling towards a 2. But if she just had an editor willing to tell her like, hey, rein this in, I think it could have really been something excellent. As it stands, I do not enjoy it as much as the first 2 Poppy War books, and I do not enjoy it as much as Babel. That being said, I'll probably read Rebecca Kwong again. This didn't put me off of her completely, but it does make me more hesitant to check out more books by her because it seems like the pretentious bent is becoming more and more indulgent with each release. So we'll see. Next up, we have the conclusion to a trilogy that I started about a year ago, and that is Destiny's Doom by Von Roycroft. So I gave this a 5 stars. This was a really emotionally resonant story for me. You really find the characters of Valdan and Elan going on this journey and coming to a satisfying conclusion that also sets up the following trilogy in a very satisfying and engaging way, and I'm so excited to read that next trilogy whenever it comes out. Yeah, Destiny's Doom was excellent. One of the best self-pub books I've read all year. I absolutely adored the character of Valdan and Elan, even though Valdan is very reprehensible at times. He is absolutely fascinating to follow. So I very much enjoyed this. Next up, I have one of my only 2 comics I'm going to talk about, and that is Assorted Crisis Events. This is 5 stars. This is amazing. This is my first work by Dennis Camp, and it absolutely blew my socks off. I will say, if you're not, like, I would consider myself fairly left-leaning politically. If you do not share a lot of those ideologies, I could see how this would seem preachy to you. It did not seem preachy to me. It felt very like validating. There's a lot of issues I see going on in our modern world that I feel like people just kind of ignore, or they pretend like these things aren't happening. And in Assorted Crisis Events, you see, if you're familiar with Crisis on Infinite Earths, the DC comic where all the heroes are fighting this big world-ending event, this is like, what if these world-ending events were happening to ordinary people just trying to make it through their days? And it is so beautiful. It really shines a light on how we need to empathize with our fellow humans and not turn a blind eye to the struggles of others. It is a beautiful and powerful story, and it's a lot like The Twilight Zone in that each issue is a completely different story. It's an anthology series, but it also reminds me a lot of Rick and Morty with the sort of, dimension shifting crisis event things going on. If you're at all curious about the work of Dennis Camp, I think Assorted Crisis Events is an amazing place to start. Last novel I'm going to talk about is Wolves of Winter by Dan Jones. I don't have a physical copy. I listened to this on audiobook. Amazing audiobook narrations, by the way. So this is the follow-up to Essex Dogs, a book I really enjoyed. I gave it 5 stars. So did Wolves of Winter live up to the hype of Essex Dogs? And I would say absolutely. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was even better than book 1. If you're a fan of Joe Abercrombie, I highly recommend checking out Dan Jones. The character work is amazing. The dialogue is sharp enough to cut you. It's so dang good. I love the characters. I love the dialogue. I love the world building. I love following our Essex Dogs, our band of brothers, as they try to get each other home safe. And this one, we see a big juxtaposition between Loveday Fitztalbot, our main character from the last book, and the captain, which was the original leader of the Essex Dogs. And the captain is a much more selfish character, very self-serving. Loveday is the complete antithesis of that. He is very self-sacrificing if it means protecting the people he needs to protect. And a big part of that is Loveday doesn't have a lot to go home to, and that's examined in this book as well. And it is such an evocative and beautiful story. I loved Wolves of Winter. I can't wait to read the 3rd Essex Dog book. My last comic, I finished it today actually, is Lobster Johnson, Omnibus Volume 1. This is from the Hellboy universe. It follows this sort of World War II Nazi killing ghost type character. Very weird premise. This did not work for me. Well, it did to an extent. I gave it 3 out of 5, so it wasn't bad, but it's probably the lowest I've ranked a mainline Hellboy comic. I liked Edward Grey Witchfinder much more. I liked BPRD much more. I liked the main Hellboy books much more. I liked the Hellboy short stories much more. Yeah, so Lobster Johnson, I think he's a very fun, mysterious character when he's in the background, but leading his own book, it just left a lot to be desired for me. I just was not engaged in his character. All right, so getting into the TBR, there's a few things I want to get to. First, I'll go over the comics because there's not that many. I want to continue reading through Chris Claremont's X-Men, his work on the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men. Chris Claremont came along, revitalized the X-Men comics, most of the famous storylines like Dark Phoenix, Days of Future Past. This is all from the Chris Claremont era of X-Men, so I want to continue through that. And I want to read Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. This is a sort of like psychedelic horror-infused take on the Batman mythos, and it's written by master of the medium, Grant Morrison, so I'm really excited to get to that. And then book-wise, so I've already started Peril's Gate by Janny Wirtz. I'm going pretty slow because there's another book that I'm about to mention that has kind of been taking precedent here in terms of my reading. But every time I return to Janny Wirtz's books, I am just amazed once again by the majesty of her prose and the absolute artistry of her craft. It is amazing. One of the greatest writers I've ever read in my entire life, not even just from the fantasy genre. She is an absolute legend. Then I want to read book 3 in the Wolf Hall trilogy. I've read book 1 and 2, loved both of them. And yeah, I just have The Mirror and the Light to wrap up this trilogy. Very excited to return to the conniving court life of Thomas Cromwell. So excited for this. Next up, the final book in the City of Sacrifice trilogy by Michael R. Fletcher. I read book 1 and 2 back to back like a year ago. I never got around to book 3. Sin and Sorrow, fun. It involves a lot of sacrifice and a lot of demonic stuff and a lot of magic stuff. And it's a fun series. It's nothing that I'm like dying to get back to, but I am like, okay, it's been a year. It's time to wrap it up. So that's why this is next. And then these are the 2 books I'm currently reading. There is Lord and King. Loving this. I'm about halfway, little less than halfway. This is not disappointing. It is just as good as Drowned Kingdom and Last of the Atlanteans. I do have to prioritize this over Peril's Gate because like this is my read along that I started with some friends and I'm the one running behind. Meanwhile, Peril's Gate, I joined the people over at Talking Story, and Brian from BellTube and all those people were kind enough to welcome me into the Janny Wirtz read along. Sadly, school got really in the way, and I am so behind. I'm like 3 books behind, so there's no hope of me catching up. But I do really want to prioritize this series moving forward throughout the summer. I hope to get through the 3rd arc in her series. But yeah, Lord and King. And then the other book I'm reading, which I should finish, honestly, within a day or 2, because I've been audiobooking it. Amazing narration by Dan Jones himself. That is Henry V, The Astonishing Rise of Britain's Greatest Warrior King. England's Greatest Warrior King. This is excellent. It tells the story of Henry V, not just his kingship, but his adolescence, his boyhood, in a present tense sort of third person that never explicitly states what Henry is thinking, what Henry is doing, but it's like it conjectures that Henry was probably thinking this at this moment, and the result is that you get a very novel-like experience in this history nonfiction work. It is captivating. I plan to read all of Dan Jones's history books. I mean, if every history book was written the way this is, oh, they'd be so much more fun to read. Granted, this sort of history book is probably less informative than the, more academic, and not to say that this isn't academic and this isn't accurate and this isn't true to the era, but it tells it in such a captivating way you can't even look away. I mean, it is a real page turner, and I'm loving it. I will probably be giving this a 4 or 5 stars, probably a 5. So yeah, guys, hope you have a good month. Let me know what y'all are reading in the month of June and what you enjoyed reading in the month of May. And as always, stay safe, guys. Peace.